Well, the old Illinois Central Railroad is here because after the state became organized and the county of Yalobusha became organized and the settlers came in from North Carolina and Georgia and Tennessee and Alabama, began to farm this country, they had to sell their produce. This county filled up very quickly around Water Valley. By the first census, there was 12,000 people here. That was in 1840. And as agriculture began to develop, that was the principal industry. As it began to develop, it became necessary to move the products away from here to sell them. Cotton, of course, was king, and that was the great product. And that was a concern of the farmers and merchants and industrialists of this area, although there was very little industry here. But the railroad was thought of back in the 1840s, but it kind of came into fruition in the middle and late 1850s. And this particular railroad here, the Mississippi Central, was begun at Holly Springs, where a group of merchants and planters and men of prominence, politicians and lawyers and people of that ilk, they got together up there and decided that Holly Springs, isolated like it was and the great producer of cotton, had to have an outlet for its market. So they began to plan, and the politicians took their needs to the state legislature, and the Mississippi Central Railroad Charter was issued for this particular railroad company to build from Canton, Mississippi to the Tennessee state line in about 1853. Well, charting is one thing and building is another, so they began to have to make some plans for the money. So they had great speakings and barbecues and gettings together, and people began to subscribe funds for this Mississippi Central Railroad. Now, a railroad was already in the process of being built from New Orleans up to Canton, Mississippi. It was chartered in Louisiana and Mississippi as the New Orleans, Jackson, and Great Northern, as far as Canton. The New Orleans, Jackson, and Great Northern. From Canton through Water Valley on up to the state line was the Mississippi Central. Then from the Tennessee state line to Jackson, Tennessee was the Mississippi Central and Tennessee. That was a separate charter which had to be granted by the legislature of Tennessee. All of this takes place in the middle 50s, and the building begins about 1856. By 1858, the New Orleans, Jackson, Great Northern is up to Canton, and they have a great celebration. They send a train, after the last spike was driven, they send a train out of New Orleans all the way to Canton in one day. Put a flat car in front of it and shot a cannon about every 2 or 3 miles. Scared all the mules and horses to death and all the farm hands. But they got on up there and drove a golden spike somewhere around Brookhaven. Then they went on to Canton, and it didn't get there at 11 o'clock at night, but they still had a barbecue and a big dance, a ball they called it then. And it was a wonderful celebration. I wish I'd have been there. All right, that gets them up to Canton, but we've still got this business up here. And it's building from Holly Springs south and from Jackson, Tennessee south. Well, it's building both ways from Holly Springs. They come on out of Holly Springs on down through Waterford, Abbeville, Oxford, Taylor. These places are just given names, name for the people that owned the property or some prominent person along the way. And in 1857, they get to Water Valley. Let's see, maybe we better make that 1858. Get to Water Valley, and 3 miles south of town, and there they ran out of rails. Well, from Canton, they had come north to Goodman. Goodman was a little station named for Walter Goodman, who was the president of this new railroad. So they get up to Goodman from that direction and down to Water Valley from the north, and ran out of money and ran out of rails.